Hi guys, and welcome to Hack Your Health. I'm Erica, and today I'm going to show you how to make an essential oil blend for hair growth. So I started researching these essential oils because I noticed that there was a bald patch at the back of my head. Fortunately, it's covered by the rest of my hair, but obviously I became interested in why my hair had fallen out and how I could get it to grow back. So if you're going through a similar experience, I definitely understand, and hopefully this essential oil blend can help you grow your hair back too. And this is, of course, not medical advice. This is just my personal research, and essential oils are appropriate only for adults who are not pregnant or breastfeeding or undergoing current surgery, and make sure to dilute your essential oils well. So in this blend, we're going to use castor oil as the base or the carrier. So this is hexane-free cold pressed castor oil. And then I'm going to use 5 essential oils in a 50 milliliter dropper container. So this container is made of glass. You can see that it's just a little dropper, and this makes it quite easy to apply because you can either just part your hair and drop it directly onto your scalp, or you can put a few drops on your hands and then kind of massage it into your scalp like that. So the focus with these is to get the essential oil blend more onto your scalp, not throughout all of your hair. So you don't really need to put this oil throughout all of your hair in order for it to be effective. It's really trying to get this onto your scalp as much as you can. It's definitely not harmful for your hair, and probably is actually good for your hair to get it on there, but that is not the focus. The focus is to get this onto your scalp. So the 5 essential oils are Clary Sage, Lavender, Peppermint, Cedar Wood, and Rosemary. And I'll just go into each one of these and why they are helpful for hair growth, and then I'll show you how to mix and dilute them to a safe amount. So if you can only afford one essential oil, I would recommend making it rosemary, because this is the one that comes up the most often as a solution for hair growth, and a lot of people will just put a few drops of it in their shampoo, which is another idea. In one study with rosemary essential oil, they compared it with minoxidil, which is Rogaine, and found that after 3 months of use, neither group had grown more hair, and this was with testosterone-related balding. But after 6 months, the rosemary group had grown slightly more hair than the minoxidil group, and both were obviously experiencing hair regrowth. So it improves circulation, and basically it just encourages your hair to grow. And rosemary essential oil is also good for the health of the skin on your scalp. Lavender essential oil is really great for reducing stress, and stress is one of the main causes of alopecia areata. In my case, this happened after a period of extreme stress, and as soon as that very stressful situation resolved and started to become less stressful, my hair started to fall out basically in clumps. So you may notice the same thing, where it's not during the stressful period that your hair might fall out. It could be right after the stressor is sort of reducing and your life is getting back together that you may notice something like this happen. Lavender essential oil is very calming. It's reduces that stress and anxiety, which is really helpful for this condition. Lavender essential oil also has properties which can generate the growth of cells, so it basically encourages them to grow faster. It also has antimicrobial properties like most of these do, so if there's any kind of imbalance with the sort of microbial environment in your scalp, these will help kind of rectify that situation. So they compared lavender oil again to Rogaine in a study, and basically they found that it was almost exactly the same effectiveness as the Rogaine at helping the mice regrow their hair. And in this study, it wasn't specifically alopecia areata. They actually just shaved the mice and then applied these treatments to see how it affected the regrowth of the hair, and they found that there were more hair follicles, faster growth, etc. in both the lavender oil group and the Rogaine group, but not in the controls. So it just demonstrates that it is effective at helping regrow your hair, or well, in that case, the mice's hair. And it's very likely then to help with humans as well. So peppermint oil is a really helpful one for while the hair is in the growing phase. So some of these will stimulate the hair to start growing by increasing circulation, and basically there's different phases of hair growth, so it can encourage it to go into the growing phase. And peppermint oil is particularly helpful when the hair has already started to grow. It increases the circulation and the number of hair follicles, and in the mice type study that they did on the lavender oil as well, peppermint oil was actually significantly more effective in that study with number of hair follicles and hair growth, meaning that when they compared it to the Rogaine group, the peppermint oil mice actually, after 4 weeks of treatment, had more hair growth. So this one was very effective, so I would recommend including it for sure. And it's worth noting that both of these were associated with less itching than in humans than the Rogaine. So if you've experienced any side effects from those kinds of treatments, then essential oils could be a good alternative because they don't have that itching that can be experienced with conventional sorts of hair growth treatments. So peppermint is also anti-inflammatory, and as you probably know, with alopecia areata, basically your body is attacking itself, and it's an inflammatory kind of disease. So that's an autoimmune kind of response or reaction where it's attacking the hair follicles. So something that reduces inflammation is very likely to be helpful from my understanding, because by reducing inflammation, you can kind of tune down that autoimmune or overactive response. So anti-inflammatory is a very good quality and something that you're using to treat alopecia areata. So the next one is Cedar Wood, and it's another one that calms and soothes the nerves, and it also helps with rebalancing the oil producing glands in the scalp. So basically it will help kind of regulate and calm the scalp. It relieves tension, and it's also anti-inflammatory, and it also is antimicrobial, and it's often used as an insect repellent, so it's also going to help if there's any microbial problems or fungal or anything happening in your scalp. These essential oils will also help reduce any of those kinds of problems that could be contributing to your difficulty with your hair. And then the last one. So the last one is Clary Sage. So this isn't just called sage, it's called Clary Sage. So be careful to get the right one. This one is used to reduce stress, and it helps with balancing hormones. So it's often used for people like in the case of menopause and stuff like that. So this can help. Basically, it has, again, a balancing effect and a soothing and calming effect. And it also is particularly helpful with strengthening the hair. So that's a little bit of information about why I decided to include all of these essential oils And of course, there's lots of more information online if you're interested in reading more about this. And I'll put a few links to the studies that I mentioned in the description box below. Now that we've kind of been introduced to these essential oils, it's time to mix them. So I just rinsed this out before I used it because that's what I do with all of these kinds of containers when I first buy them. So basically, when you're mixing essential oils, you want to have about a 2% ratio. So 2% essential oils to basically 98% carrier oil, because essential oils are very, very strong. And if you put them directly on your skin, it can cause a reaction. It probably wouldn't, but you don't want to make yourself overly sensitive to essential oils by putting them directly on your skin. And I mean, I have put them on my skin before and nothing bad happened, but it's definitely not a recommended practice. It's definitely better to dilute them to 2% and just trust that even in a diluted quantity, they're still going to be beneficial. And in most of these studies, they were using a 3% or a 5% solution. So I suppose that you could go slightly stronger with a couple of them. Those were the peppermint and the lavender that they were using at 3%, and the lavender they were using at both 3 and 5%. But still, that's still in that very low range. And I'm not an essential oil expert. This is just what I learned from doing research online. So be sure to do your own research. And if you have any medications that you're taking, make sure that they're not going to interfere, anything like that. Basically, this is a 50 milliliter container. And from what I read, you're going to want about 25 drops of essential oil in a 50 milliliter container. So I'm going to do 5 drops of each essential oil, and I'm going to add 2 extra drops of lavender to bring it closer to that 5% that was the most effective in that study. So this is the castor oil, and it's quite thick when you pour it. Okay, so I just filled this up fairly close to the top. I don't know if you can see that, with the castor oil. And castor oil itself is also used for hair growth. A lot of people put it on their eyelashes, and they say that it makes their eyelashes thicker or their eyebrows. So castor oil itself is also likely to help with your hair growth. And one thing I wanted to say is, I have this patch, coin-sized patch of hair, and my hair mostly covers it, and it's already starting to get a bit prickly and grow back. But honestly, it's easy to cover, and most people haven't noticed until I told them. And I've had autoimmune Crohn's disease before, and basically, it's best not to freak out too much if you can, because freaking out will only make things worse. So I would recommend being as calm as you possibly can be in regards to this whole situation. I also started going to acupuncture, and I found that's been really helpful for just calming and relaxing the nerves, as well as eating an anti-inflammatory kind of diet. So I, in the past, have had great success with the specific carbohydrate diet, and I have other videos about that, but going on some low grain, low sugar, high nutrient diet is going to be really helpful, as well as looking into what sorts of nutritional deficiencies you could possibly have. So this is one important part of this whole thing, but there are several other things that are very helpful for alopecia areata. And instead of freaking out too much, it's a great idea to just kind of think to yourself, what can I do? And chances are, by reducing all the stress in other areas of your life, you're going to be better off for it anyways. And a lot of the time, these kinds of problems come up, and when you deal with them, it's just an overall positive experience. So that's what I have found, at least, and I have had several of these kinds of things. So now I'm going to put in 5 drops of this Clary Sage. I'm going to do 7 drops of this lavender oil. I'm gonna do 5 drops of peppermint oil, and these are also amazing when you use them in a diffuser. So you can get a little tea light diffuser or any kind that you like, and especially in the evening, since so many of these are stress reducing, using them for aromatherapy as well is really calming and can help you fall asleep. And 5 drops of the Cedar Wood. So when they're talking about this 2 to 3% solution for essential oils, from everything that I read, it really seemed like they were talking about 2% total essential oils. So not 2% of each one, but 2% overall distributed amongst the oils. So that's what I've done here is, there's 25 total drops, I guess 27 because of the 2 extra lavender ones. And then I basically just divided it up amongst all of the oils. And I think that that's because some of them have similar properties, and you may get too much if you put 2% of all of them. So here's the last one, which is the rosemary. So the the rosemary, the sage, and I believe the lavender, the peppermint, are all in the same kind of family of plants. So that could be part of why they have some of the similar kinds of properties, like chemically. So there we go. Just gonna kind of mix this up to make sure that the oils are all distributed. And that's the finished product, and this will last a really, really, really long time. And even though it was like somewhat expensive to buy a lot of these essential oils all at the same time, I really only used a few drops. There's about, in 30 milliliters of this, there's about 600 drops. So so this one's 15 milliliters, so that means there's about 300 drops in here. So, you can use these for aromatherapy, for other kinds of medicinal uses, and that's gonna last you a long time because there's only 5 drops each in this. You can see that it's quite thick, and I'll just demonstrate to you how I've been applying this to my hair. So I've basically just been putting like a couple of drops on my hand and then kind of massaging it into the scalp. So every so often I've just been pausing to put a couple more drops on my hand, but I've probably only been using maybe 6 drops total on my whole head, and then just putting some on my finger and rubbing it specifically into that spot, which is actually the most affected by this. And there's a lot of really horror stories, and I don't want to speak too soon, but for me it looks like it's just this one spot, and it's already starting to get prickly. So if you've just noticed that you have some kind of spot on your head, try not to be like too worried. Like, it's very common for it to just be one spot, and then if you calm your nerves down, eat a healthy and sort of anti-inflammatory sort of diet, and do things like this essential oil blend, and kind of get into that space where you're not having that overactive immune response, it's really likely that that's just going to be what it is, and your hair is going to grow back and it's going to be great. So I'll do another video when this is starting to be more covered, because right now it still looks bald, and kind of go into how long it's taken for it to grow back and stuff like that. So this was mostly just about the essential oil mix. So thank you so much for watching, and please like this video if you found it helpful. Feel free to ask any questions or answer any questions. I mean, I will answer them, but it's great if you guys can also talk to each other. And yeah, subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more health related videos, and if you're interested in the diet that I mentioned, I have a playlist about that on my channel, from healing from Crohn's disease, which is another autoimmune disease. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and best of luck on your healing journey. Okay.